like to talk tonight about Matthew chapter 5. This is the last section in Matthew chapter 5, where Jesus is talking about the love of enemies and trying to get us to be more loving of those that we find it difficult to love. Always an issue for us. And Jesus has an interesting thought. He says, God makes the sun rise on both the bad and the good. So in reality, in life, there are going to be people who are bad, who do evil. We speak that there is never really a bad person, but a person who does bad actions. We always make that distinction because we think of everyone made in the image and likeness of God, and all people being good. But Jesus said, the sun rises on the bad and the good. So they are both part of our reality. And so how do we treat those who are doing evil? How do we bring them to a point of conversion? That is always the challenge, and it's a difficult one. There are people who lie, who steal, who kill, who cheat, who scam. We see this all the time. Our newscasts are full of this. And so this surrounds us, and we are challenged to reach out to people like this, as Jesus tells us, because the sun does rise on both the evil and the good. They are both part of creation. Jesus elaborates on this thought a little bit further. He says, God causes rain to fall on the just and on the unjust. So there will be those who are very just, who try to help others. But there will also be those who are unjust. And that is part of our reality as well, and the rain will fall on them as well. Meaning they are part of God's creation. And we have to deal with that. We have to assist those. We have to guide them to a different path. Again, a challenge. Not something that is easy to do, but not something that we can avoid doing as well. And Jesus puts it a little bit more directly and in a little bit more of a challenging way for us personally. When he says, if you love those who love you, what recompense will you have? I mean, let's face it, if somebody loves me, it's very easy to love them back. If somebody does not love me, if they can't stand me, if they're upset with me, if they're constantly arguing with me, if they're constantly belittling me, putting me down, I'm almost like, why bother? I feel like walking away from them. I don't want to be involved with them. They're toxic people to me. But Jesus says, not so quickly. We have to love them also. So this becomes for us a huge challenge. How do I love these people that the Lord wants me to love, obviously, but I don't want to love? I find it difficult to love. I would rather not be involved with them at all. How do I love them? And certainly it is by the power of God's grace, by our openness to Jesus, by our willingness to follow the Holy Spirit. All of these things come into play. It becomes for us a huge challenge. And there are many classic examples, certainly, of this in our history and things that certainly that we have encountered. One of the most amazing to me was the story of a black man who read about the Ku Klux Klan and couldn't figure out why someone would hate him as a black person who had never met him and be part of this organization. and be dedicated to the elimination of black people. He said, well, I'm going to go and meet some of these people. Jesus is encouraging me to love my enemy. Let me see if I can do something about this. So he wound up meeting people, clan members, and had a dialogue with them. And for many of those clan members, it was very interesting. They had never met a black person before. They never knew a black person. And so through their dialogue with him, they got to know very well, very intimately, a black person. And he is a black person and never met a clan member. And he got to know very well these different clan members, several of whom, as a result of their encounter with him, decided to resign from the clan. So again, what can we accomplish by loving our enemies? We don't know until we try to do this. And this is a challenge from Jesus, not an easy one. But again, we look at it this way. Did Jesus know what he was talking about when he said, if you love those who love you, what recompense do you have? Right? Is this wisdom from Jesus? In some ways, we might resist it. We might not want to do it. We might feel it's too difficult a challenge. I want to remain comfortable with the people that I love. I have a nice circle of friends. We're very close. Wonderful. Why do I need this extra trouble of encountering somebody who I find it very difficult to be with? But again, this is the challenge of Jesus in the Gospels. And there is a wisdom there. A wisdom for us that we can enlarge our ability to love by loving those who we are challenged to love. Jesus then says, well, look at it this way. Don't tax collectors do that? They just kind of love certain people and they don't love others. Tax collectors were Jews who were engaged in the collection of indirect taxes, such as tolls and customs. And tax collectors liked people who paid their taxes and didn't like people who didn't pay their taxes. So he says, well, if you just love those who love you, aren't you following the example of the tax collectors? People whom you hate. Tax collectors were considered to be awful people, sinners. They cooperated with the enemy. And they were representatives of the enemy, and they were making money off of us, and we didn't like that. So again, can we do more than these tax collectors by loving those who are our enemies, who are difficult to love? And then Jesus says, well, if you greet your brothers only, what's so unusual about that? You greet people that you're friendly with. Greet people in your family, people that you know. And that greeting that Jesus is talking about here is to both welcome the person and wish for their well-being. Aspazomai in Greek. So it is a certain type of greeting. It's a greeting that is one of being very welcoming to another person. And you truly wish for their well-being. So if you do that for your brothers, that's fine. For those you know, that's fine. That's a good thing to do. What about those whom you don't know? Those you find it difficult to encounter. Jesus says, well, don't the pagans do that? They do that. What's so unusual about that? Are you really following God? Are you really accepting the good news? Are you really part of God's kingdom? If you do that, not really. See, even the pagans do that. Well, no religion or worship various gods and goddesses. They do that. So Jesus says, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. You might say, wow, that's quite the tall order to be perfect. The word, though, is interesting. The word for perfect is teleos, and that really connotes full maturity. When Jesus says to be perfect, he says, be mature in your acceptance of the gospel. Accept it fully, accept it completely. And that is our challenge. Are we truly willing to accept the gospel, the good news of Jesus, to follow Jesus completely by taking up some of these challenges that we might find very difficult and very hard?